Hi, everyone. I am Mary Kate Luke. I'm the marketing specialist here at Hasmark Publishing International, and I am here today with another wonderful Life After Release interview. We are joined today by lovely author Angelica Robles. She wrote Through These Brown Eyes. She is fantastic, such a lovely person. She's actually one of the very few authors, because this company is remote, that I've been able to meet in person, and she is so fabulous. So I'm so happy to be chatting with her today. And on here on Life After Release, which is where we talk with our past authors a little bit about how the process was writing their book and how it's been after, and celebrate their successes from launching their book and launching their careers. So thank you, Angelica, for joining me today. I am so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I was hoping you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and about your book.
Yeah, so I am a former undercover agent. I worked for the government for about 16 years, and then I decided to write a book about my life, my crazy life. And I wrote a book and people bought it, and it became an international bestseller. And so now I am just a writer and a motivational speaker.
Fabulous. And obviously this story is so deeply personal to you. It's about your life and all the turmoils that you dealt with. What would you say was sort of the inspiration and the reason behind wanting to share this story now?
I think I really wrote the book because I not only did I want to get it out of myself, but I also really wanted to touch and move and inspire other people to be able to get over their past traumas and really be able to move on so that nothing in their past would hinder their current growth.
Absolutely. And that's so huge. It's obviously an important topic that a lot of people that can relate to. Now, how long would you say the book took from sort of start concept to finish?
You know, I'm going to say this out loud because people ask me this question all the time and they freak out. So I always tell people, don't compare yourself to anybody else. But at the time, I was in a lot of pain and I really needed to get everything really out of my system, my head, and really out of my mind. So for me, it took me 3 weeks. But it took me 3 weeks because once I started writing, I couldn't stop. And it almost became a very cathartic process for me. So the faster I finished the book, it was the faster that I was healing. So 3 weeks from my end.
Which is incredible. But I mean, with a story of this caliber, it's understandable you'd want to kind of just let it all out and get it down on paper.
Right.
Now, what were some of the barriers that you faced sort of maybe during the writing process, during the whole process, and how did you overcome those?
So particularly for me, I had a lot of barriers because I was disclosing a lot of things government wise, and everything that I wrote in the book was personal. It was everything that I experienced on my own. And so obviously there was a lot of fear in writing the book, and there was a lot of risk that I took because obviously the government does not like anybody talking about them or in a negative light, because I was very candid and I was very blunt in my representation of how I maneuvered or experienced working for the government. So that was very, that was frightening for me. So there was an element of fear there. And so what I really told myself was, if I really wanted to be authentic and I really wanted to reach out to the reader and just be fully self-expressed, I had to take that risk. And I had to tell myself that I was no longer in fear of judgment. And so once I got over that and I started writing, a lot of the things in the book are very personal, and it's very taboo. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about. And I opened it up for those conversations. So once I had talked about a lot of my childhood traumas, it was almost like no holds bar. It was like I'm either 0 or 100, and I was just all in. So yeah.
Which is important because, like we touched on earlier, it's so crucial to have those stories that people can read and relate to, because, like you said, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but a book is a wonderful place to be able to sort of find yourself within the pages.
Right, right. And I do talk a lot about mental health, and I talk about suicide, and I talk about therapy. And now as a motivational speaker, I tend to focus more on mental health, especially in the minority communities, because I'm a woman and I'm Latina. And mental health is still very taboo. So yeah.
It's true. It's huge, and it's so important for people to have the resources and the knowledge that they can get the help that they need. Now,
For
sort of on
sure.
the flip side of that question, what would you say is sort of maybe a moment of grace or an exciting moment that led to the completion of the story that wasn't necessarily a barrier, but sort of an exciting moment?
I mean, we could say it's an exciting moment now, but probably a year and a half ago was probably a tragic moment. And I think this is why I'm really good at what I do is I always turn tragedy into resilience, just like the book says. I think, in the book, like towards the end, the book pretty much triggered my husband at the time to tell me his truth. So if the book did anything, it definitely worked in my own household. It triggered him to tell me his truth. So in the book, I tell my truth. And so when my ex-husband read the transcript of the book, it pretty much allowed him to be able to tell his truth. So now I see it as a win because in that moment, he was probably the most authentic that he had ever been in our entire 11-year relationship. So I think that was probably a big culminating point, not only for our relationship, but also for the birth of the book, because it had a bigger purpose. So yeah, you'll have to
Yeah,
read
and
the book to see what I'm talking about.
a huge moment in your life that was probably both parts, like you said, tragic, but like a weight lifted.
Right. And a moment of compassion. I talk about compassion and forgiveness in the book, which is then leading on to the second book that I'm already started. So yeah.
Exciting. Now, a little bit talking about after release of the book, that moment when you found out that you were an international bestseller, can you chat with us a little bit about kind of the feeling finding out that news?
So, everybody talks about being a bestseller and nobody really knows how it happens, right? And I think for me, I really believed in it. I remember before the book came out and I was just posting on social media, I would always tag, international bestselling author, because they say that when you throw it out into the universe, it comes true. And so for me, it was very exciting to find out. I had a big release party in LA with all my new LA friends that I had made. And when I got the news, it was exciting, it was frightening, and it was humbling. But at the same time, it kind of validated that my book was worthy, that it was a good book, and that it was worthy of receiving a symbol of being an international bestseller. So it was like a mix of emotions.
A big moment for sure. Now, can you tell us maybe a little bit about you've celebrated so many things since I know that because we've chatted about it, but what kind of successes have you celebrated other than your bestseller title since the launch?
Yeah, so I have to give credit where it's due. So Hasmark introduced me to Brian Sebastian, who is the host of Movie Reviews and More. So I ended up going on his podcast probably like 5 times. So from that introduction, I ended up being invited to several red carpets, several publications that I had. That then led to being invited to a bigger podcast and bigger stages. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of panels and for women empowerment type thing, like the one that we were in Nashville for Swift. And then I recently just got published globally in MSP Global. So there was an article that came out. But probably the biggest would probably be being on Natasha Graciano's stage. And that just happened this weekend. So I was able to be on the #1 motivational speaker under 40 that came out on Forbes, her stage, and just be among her people in her circle. So it's been crazy. And then if you want to get further in, I do have meetings for potential projects for producers to buy my book and my intellectual property to be made into a movie or either a series, a limited series. So crazy stuff.
A true whirlwind. It's so exciting, but you know what? You deserve it all. This story is so incredible. And I would absolutely love to see it in so many other formats for other people to sort of reach as far and wide as possible.
Thank you. We're hoping that that's what happens. We're throwing it out into the
Fingers crossed.
universe. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm curious to know if there's anything that you could change about the book, if you could go back and do so. Is there anything that you would maybe add or remove or change in any way?
You know, based on the criticism and really the constructive feedback that I received from the readers was everybody wanted to know more about the actual interrogation process, and they wanted to know more about the stories about the people I was interrogating, and they also wanted to know more about when I was, my cover was blown, just more in detail about that. And I told people we did that strategically because we wanted to leave that a little open-ended for an additional on-screen project. And so, the book is always in a certain format. And then when you go on a screen, you kind of elaborate a little bit more. So we did that strategically, but I think with the project on film or on TV, we're definitely going to expand a little bit more on that. So just, to savor the appetite of the readers who wanted a little bit more. So
absolutely. And we can all wait for the movie tie-in version and then pick up that as well. Maybe a couple
and then
extra bonus chapters.
Right. And then I kind of left everyone hanging on book one, and that was strategically done as well because so much has transcended and happened after book one. And so, everybody will get, what happened. Everybody knows what everybody wants to know what happened after book one. So it will all be in book two. So
Perfect. And that was the right segue because my last question is, do you have any other projects? I mean, you've talked about obviously potentially a movie or a limited series, and you have another book in the works. Can you maybe share a little bit with us?
Yeah. So the second book will be a continuation of book one, going into more detail of kind of what happened after book one. The book two is called Power of Forgiveness, and it's going to go more into detail, and also it's going to be really bringing in the reader into the action. So that's going to be exciting. And then, of course, I've booked a 5-city tour for speaking. I will be speaking about mental health awareness with the Ebonize Chill Tour. It kicks off in Chicago, where I was born and raised, and then it ends in Houston, where I currently live. So it's a perfect segue to really close out 2022 and go into 2023. And so now really 2023 is going to be, book two, finishing book two, and then really just getting 2023 booked for motivational speaking events. Yeah.
Incredible. That's such a full circle moment. I love that so much. Well, that's all for my questions for today. So thank you so, so much, Angelica, for chatting with us. Your book is so, so incredible. And obviously, we would love for people to go and pick it up on Amazon. It's available everywhere now. And we will be on the lookout for any future projects, hopefully on the big screen and a new addition to the story. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. And I always tell people, if you don't like to read, the Audible just came out last week. So let me read the book to you, because I did the Audible in my own voice. So
absolutely. Yes. And we love that medium. So pick it up on Audible, pick it up on Amazon, get both copies while you're at it.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, Angelica.
Thank you.